So week 3, part 2 assignment. This is for team 2. So we took a simple 2-node network, which was the attendance of 18 Southern women at 14 social events. This is the Davis Southern Club Women. It seems to be a very seminal piece of work in node network analysis. The graph is bipartite, so that's clubs and women broken out. So here we can kind of see the connection is pretty wide. If we do a more circular pattern, we can actually see that some of the nodes are more connected to each other than others. So let's go into that a little bit more. So separating out the women and the clubs, here we have a list of the women, and here we have a list of the clubs. Unfortunately, we don't have a further detail of the club's events that they attended. So breaking that out into a bijacency matrix, you can see here, so then we can further kind of put this together and look at the degrees. So the number of friends member and the number of friends meetings member. We can see Evelyn Jefferson at the top here. And then once again, Evelyn Jefferson is at the top for the number of count of degrees of members. So moving along, once we project the graph G into the nodes, we can see that there's a total of 18 nodes. There's 18 women in the study, and then 139 connection edges amongst them. The average degree is 15.44, which indicates the women knew a significant amount of other women and interacted with them, so it's a pretty close-knit network. Here again, if we plot the histogram of the women, we can see the frequency of node degrees among the women, so you kind of see the distribution. Brenda Rogers, she has a node degree of 15. That means she's interacted with 15 other women. And here we can kind of break it down further and see her weights. And then further, if we were to map this out a bit further. Again, doing that circular network, we can kind of see the differences in the weighted edges. Some of the people are going to be on the outside of the network as per usual. So we have Dorothy Murchison. You can actually see the weights are about 1 to node. So she's more likely to be an acquaintance, and she doesn't mix with as many other women as our previous example. So here we take a look, just make sure that the graph is connected. The diameter is 4. So it does suggest that some women don't mix together as closely. They can be at very most 4 degrees of separation apart. So the more dense the graph is, closer to 1, we can see that this is a pretty well-connected network. It's pretty dense. Here, if we go through, look at closeness, centrality, they're quite high, right? They're ranging from 0.7 to 1. So this is the measure of the closeness to individuals in the network. So previously, we made the claim that Dorothy Murchison was an outsider to Clique, but her closeness centrality is pretty high at 0.94. So if we calculate the eigenvector, it appears more closely with the graph drawn previously. So it is impacted, the eigenvector is impacted by the quality of the nodes it is connected to. So a woman who's fairly high up in society and connected with others in high society are going to have a higher eigenvector than those that are near the bottom. So again, as we were looking, the valuation of one group, we see there isn't really a boundary spanner. And then if we were to then approach this again through the club events, we're going to see the graph here. The most popular event appears to be I8, and the last popular event is I11. So if we look at I8, we see a number of people of attending. It'd be interesting to find out what that event actually was. Whereas E11 is a lot smaller group. So it'd be kind of interesting to see why that is, why we have such a small group and then such a large event, and maybe there's more information available through analyzing those actual events and the type of events. So it appears that there's different classes likely interact with each other. So we suggest that women in E11 were on a different social scale than women in E8. If we repeated this for multiple events and clubs, we likely find a similar pattern of this nature. So we took also another perspective, a slightly different approach into the groups of the 18 women's. So we're hoping to gain a little more information regarding this group of women. So again, we're mapping out sort of the connection between the people and the events. And then we took the clustering coefficient. So this is the measure of degrees to which nodes in the graph tend to cluster together. So there's evidence, right, that nodes tend to create tightly knit groups. I think we've all, experienced that and seen that occur. So if we map out the women for their clustering coefficient, we can see, the difference pretty close. We're about a 0.9 to 1 of that clustering coefficient. So the women are pretty tight knit together. Like we said, there's it's not a very sparse network. If we look at events, we also see some interesting clustering here. So now if we were to graph out the women in the events, we see these kind of three clusters, these three cliques being created, and again, without the type of events, we're sort of limited in the information that we can pull from this, but it does appear that you can form about 3 cliques with the women. Also in the events, we see 2 cliques that kind of stand out, and then we also see these spanner events. Again, through this process, it even draws up more interest as to what E9 may be. And we also see these events on the peripherals, which is sort of an interesting conclusion from this graph that we would want to investigate further if we had more information regarding the type of events. So if we take a look at the ego graph of the individuals, just a quick look at say Flora Price. So once we go up here, Flora Price is separated from, well, she's in 1 clique, and she's not someone who's spanning multiple cliques. And when we take a look, we see that she really is connected to E11 and E9. Going back here, we do see E9 in the spanner clique, and then E11 here kind of gives a little more idea of the type of network that she's connected to. And then if we take a look at the ego graph of Brenda Rogers, we see that she's attended quite a few of these events, and including many that are spanning. And if we take a look at her clustering coefficient, Brenda Rogers, she uses a 0.96, whereas the Flora Price is a 1 clustering coefficient. So once again, doing this visualization of the weights, we can see how some of the women are connected. There's much stronger connections between some of these groups and some of these cliques than others. Here again, we do this for the events. So overall, Network X provides a really interesting opportunity, and this network actually provides also a really interesting opportunity to take a look at and make some inferences of cliques and the events attended. And these techniques just basically show us like how powerful a network analysis can be.